Hello and welcome back to another live letter summary, this time for live letter part 57. This was 3.5 hours of live letter condensed, so thank you kindly for watching and leave a like below. So without further ado, what was in the live letter? So firstly, the 5.2 summary. We kicked off the live letter with a brand new trailer, which I'll link in the description of this video. Definitely go and check that out in your own language of choice. It, however, does show specifically some bosses from the new Eden Wing, including Ramu, who now appears to be a centaur, kind of mixed between Ixion and Ramu together. They show some more stuff that we'll talk about much later in this video. And also there's a shot of Garuda and Ifrit fighting side by side. As for a third fight, we do see some kind of battle with feathers as an ability, but no details on that, or indeed the fourth boss of that, so we'll have to wait and see. The trailer also showed quite a bit of other stuff that we'll go through in a separate video entirely. So next up, they actually spent about half an hour reiterating current modding rules, how modding is currently bad, and they're cracking down on this on their policy agreements, specifically due to people posting lewd pictures of their characters with modifications on social media. Now, there has been some recent bans to do this, so they're obviously just putting their foot down a little bit there. They also talk about third-party tools, but this pretty much stays the same as their usual stance. It is against terms of service, any third-party tool used. However, it is still a grey area, so obviously they're not going to ban somebody for having Act on screen, but again, this is something that they'll probably have to deal with in further detail further down the line. So as a result of this, you might have seen recently some technology that people have employed in various fights, including the Alexander World First recently, using a third-party tool as a part of Act to place down placement markers for them automatically. Waypoints will no longer be able to be placed during combat, so you have to place them before you enter combat. This is a direct result of people using third-party tools to exploit that. In addition to this, however, they have come up with a really nice solution where you can save 5 presets of markers and deploy them depending on whichever fight you're on. These are even shareable, so if you go straight into new content and someone has linked you their placement markers, you'll be able to post those as well. This is limited to 5 saves of those presets, so obviously you'll be wanting to save those for the ones you want to use the most. This could have been really helpful early on in the previous content for sure. They say that the new main storyline cutscenes in 5.2 are much longer this time around, and you need to plan around them. They say this all the time, but this time around they're emphasizing how long they really are. So if you want to do that content, they say plan a few hours around that, which is quite surprising indeed. So to the meat and potatoes of 5.2. So there's a new beast tribe for gathering only for the gathering classes in the game, and this is with the Katari. This is essentially the first version of the Kakern. These will be located in the Raktika Greatwood, and apparently the story explains why we haven't seen them up until now, and they say it's quite comedic and quite entertaining throughout. You need to be level 70 or above as a gathering class, any of those 3, so botanist, miner or fisher, to be eligible to do this beast tribe. They use acorns as a currency, which you'll be able to exchange as you rank up for new rewards as usual. The storyline is, however, supposed to split at one point, uniquely to this narrative, so you get to choose where you go with your decisions. As a result, your choice in the story affects it, and your choices seem to matter, and you will not be able to see the other side of those storylines, which is quite interesting. As a final reward from the maximum reputation, you get the Great Serpent of Ronka as a mount, which is just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the universe. It seems to give off sort of musical notes as it moves. Again, apologies for all of the lack of high quality imagery. The live stream only went to 720p, and I believe the bitrate they employed during their live stream was akin to that of a fax machine. So there are chronicles of a new era quest, the Sorrow of Whirlite. We also have in patch 5.25 the new Relic Quest line. There's quite a bit about this. It's called Save the Queen, the Blades of Gunhilda. So they say in the live stream that you play through the quests available in 5.25. Players will receive the base weapon from that quest line. Then you join the Resistance and free Bosjar from the rule of Legatus Noah Van Gabranth of the 14th Imperial Legion. You need to have completed the Return to Ivalice quest series to actually take part in this, with Matsuno-san in charge of its storyline, the guy who did that Return to Ivalice storyline. So it does seem to be like a continuation. Perhaps then we might even see Fran again, fingers crossed. They also say it won't be hard to obtain the first weapons for all jobs, and they're obviously continuing this in 5.35 and onwards. In 5.35, even though that's a million miles away, they say there will be another field instance added, similar to kind of like Eureka. Presumably this is like Eureka, with sort of trials mentioned included in it, which is quite interesting. They're talking about Baldessian Arsenal 2.0, which is quite frightening. They ask us to not compare it directly with Eureka, but it is definitely influenced by it, but apparently will be completely different. So we'll wait and see for that one. In 5.2 then, back to the actual 5.2 content, there is a new dungeon added as part of that MSQ, which will be in the latter half of those MSQ quests, Amnesis and Nida, which we have already seen some pictures on before. Included in this are brand new trials in 5.2, including the Cinder Drift and Cinder Drift Extreme, which is the other word for the trial where you fight against Ruby Weapon and Ruby Weapon Extreme. It looks absolutely amazing. They showed very little on the live stream, but they did pull it with Yoshi's character with a god cheat on. He showed apparently a little bit too much, and his design team were a little bit angry. But yeah, there's quite a bit of sort of AoEs to avoid and the usual trial related stuff. Apparently the second half of the Ruby Weapon fight is a big surprise which they do not want to spoil. They say the storyline with Cinderdrift is actually tied back to the storyline of the backstory of Gaius, so that'll be fun to explore. As a third trial in this patch, coming in 5.25, is a complete secret. This is apparently alongside the upgrading of your equipment. They won't reveal it, they say, and presumably the new relic weapon is tied to this trial, although they did say equipment, which is quite interesting. Apparently this will be of extreme difficulty, so you get 2 extreme difficulty trials in the 5.2 series already, they say, which is quite hype. New job adjustments are being added, obviously, for PvP and PvE, and new dungeon gear, which was briefly shown from Amnesis and Nida, which looks really quite, it's alright actually, it's not too bad. And yeah, in terms of the job adjustments for PvE, apparently there isn't that many. Red Mage apparently are getting a straight up potency buff. They have the lowest DPS, they say, and it will be buffed with potency increases. Flesh is also buffed, and the drop off for some of the abilities will also be removed. So if you're a Red Mage, that should make you happy. They apparently buffed Summoner way too much in the past, and they're nerfing their dot potencies a bit in 5.2. Samurai are getting a better display of their meditation stacks in their UI, as it was quite hard for some players to see this, so that's quite nice. As for PvP changes, Holmgang for Warrior is being adjusted, Monks are getting adjusted, Dancer apparently is way too strong and will be nerfed accordingly, and they want to use Summoner as currently a base for the balance in PvP. So there we go, that gives you an idea of what they're going for the balance. The next slides were all about Ishgard Restoration in 5.21. This includes the gathering inside the Diadem. You can queue in the Firmament of Ishgard for the transportation to the Diadem, and Diadem is now designed to be gathering only. You can fly around the floating islands freely and gather what you want, your heart's desire. And there are mobs, but they do not aggro. The reason the mobs are still there is specific to a new mechanic, they say. You'll be able to obtain certain materials that are specifically needed for the Ishgard Restoration. There is a compressed ether meter on screen in this particular screenshot I'll show you, where you can charge this up by gathering normal nodes inside Diadem, and which allow you to use this duty action every time a bar is filled, which will allow you to instantly one-shot a monster with a laser cannon, and then you can gather their materials. So these monsters are passive, but you nuke them every time you fill those meters and give you specific materials. The monsters can give different materials each around them, so you kind of have to hunt around for unique creatures to actually hunt with your rocket launcher. This diadem can be entered apparently from level 17 gathering classes, and will actually give you experience towards leveling those as well, which is quite nice. There are actually new mounts from the restoration efforts exchanged for scripts, including a giraffe mount, i.e. the Dalmor, which we can show very briefly, and very sort of horrible resolution. Again, very bad fax machine sort of graphics thanks to their live stream bitrate. There's also the Kupo of Fortune added to the Ishgard Restoration. This is a scratch-off card lottery system where you can win things. You can actually get attempts at scratching off these cards due to rewards from the Ishgard Restoration. They don't say specifically whether that's scripts or what. The actual Kupo of Fortune vendor has a wonderful new outfit with a pom crown. Hopefully we can get that as well. That's quite nice. You can scratch off a card then, and you can see the possible prizes on screen. This includes everything from Orchestrion scrolls, materia, furnishings, and are all slightly random. It does, however, show the percentages of each scratch-off box on screen when you highlight them. You can scratch one panel off, so basically the rest don't get to be scratched off, so it's kind of like a chance out of the boxes, and it actually shows you the percentage of having each of those rewards. So the minion here from this box apparently is 8% from that highlighted square. The right side apparently can give anything at all, and the box on the left can give the first and fifth reward, so there are specific rules for those boxes as well. As you can see, there are brand new rewards to the Ishgard Restoration only obtained through these tickets, including a brand new emote, which apparently is called Eating Bread. They actually show it off because Yoshi manages to win it. It's not a persistent emote and allows you to eat bread, which is quite nice. And they say the animation of eating bread differs per race. And they also mention that they wish they had included this in the first place originally in the game for the default eating animation. But yeah, it's just a nice normal emote you can get. They also show some new glamour here, which is sort of like a cook or something with an apron. You can actually get this from a restoration as well. It appears to be just brand new glamour. They talk about expert recipes. This is another piece of crafting content. These recipes are said to require you to apparently think to yourself per step. The recipes are apparently very difficult, and you can actually buy trading recipes for 300 gil at a vendor to just practice your crafting skills beforehand. So yeah, should be interesting. There's a new ranking system, as we've already talked about in the past, and ranks start for 10 days when 5.21 patch comes out, and the top ranked players at the end of that will gain special titles as rewards, so that's quite nice. This is all planned for 3 weeks after 5.2, so 5.21 is 3 weeks after the release of 5.2, so that should be about, what, March the 10th or something? I don't know. That's a good guess, though, probably. So we talk about crafting system updates. Apparently, some actions will actually be completely removed from the game. They're gutting a lot of that back. With fishing updates, apparently there's a new notification when you actually catch a fish where there's one on the end of your rod. And this has been implemented to make it easier so you don't have to pay quite as much attention to your fishing, which never seemed to be an issue anyway for me, but it might be for some people. So let's quickly talk about Skysteel Tools. This is in 5.25. These are effectively crafting relics. These are tools that you can use for crafting to upgrade over multiple patches, so much like a relic weapon. The questline actually begins in the broom, and you gather or craft specific items to enhance these tools by making use of the Skysteel manufactory. They say the story outlines the historic legendary tools that have been found, and you can learn how they can be used to help the restoration of Ishgard. They say the statistics on these tools won't be better than a fully melded crafter tool as of yet when this comes out, but they will do in the future. They show off some of the concept for these relic crafted tools, which look pretty nice. They start with obviously no real sort of eccentric details or glow effect, but this is obviously the start before they get upgraded. In terms of materia system changes, gear doesn't convert directly into materia anymore. Once you spirit bond with an item, you can actually turn it into materia and then actually get to keep the item. Just simply the item resets its spirit bond, meaning there's less wastage overall, and it's much easier to get materia. So let's talk about ocean fishing, because this is the one I've been most excited about for this patch. Apparently you board a boat at certain times, and you receive experience and scripts based on the fish you catch during. After meeting certain conditions, passengers may discover a spectral current and a chance for a big haul. You can do this content from level 1 fisher and above, so no one is left out, and it all starts at a brand new NPC at the docks in Limsa Lominsa. Every 2 hours real time, a ship will dock, and you can get aboard for 15 minutes before it leaves. You can access 2 new fishing grounds from the ship menu, the Costa del Sol route and the Sea of the Dravanian Highlands, they say. Each of these routes has 3 individual fishing spots, and everyone will be moving from one of these to the next. If anyone on the boat meets the conditions, the color of the sea changes to a sort of purple, and you will have a chance for a big haul. One trip apparently takes about 30 minutes in total, with cutscenes included, which you can't skip. You are allowed to queue as a party directly as well, so you can actually do this with your free company, and they say they'd like to see some free company competitions. Who can catch the best fish? There's a shop on the boat where you can actually repair your armor and weapon, and even sells bait, so you don't have to worry about that. You actually get a brand new UI inside here when you're on the boat to show you how long you've been here and how long you have left to actually fish at the certain points before we move between the next fishing spot. They showed a new fishing notification here on screen, which is a blue exclamation point, or many of these actually, depending on the quality of what you fish. And obviously you'll get different points depending on the size and quality of the fish as well. It shows the points you get for the catch and also the item you just caught on the UI. And the time and weather of the time you actually do this affects the fish you can catch. So it looks like a ton of fun with some quite surprising depth, pun intended. Quite exciting, honestly, to me. They say you can leave early if you want to with no penalties, obviously, but obviously people will have that tally of who caught the most fish and got the most points at the end of it, regardless of who leaves. They say there are 3 spots and you have 7 minutes per fishing spot to fish. They want to update this content in future patches with many new spots to fish, and even possibly fishing battles with NPCs was mentioned, which honestly just sounds amazing. So let's talk about miscellaneous updates, since that's what they talked about. There's going to be the Allegan Tomestones of Allegory, the new top tier Tomestone. Obviously, Genesis are being removed from the game, and we already know about that. And the other Tomestone changes we've talked about in a previous video. There are new game plus new chapters to that. Included in that are the Alliance raid quests, which were added to New Game Plus now, so you can actually redo entire stories like the Ivalice series in one go, which is quite nice for people who want to go back and watch those cutscenes and sort of play through it again. It's quite nice to do that, as the NPCs change their dialogue as you progress. Apparently, the rank for Grand Companies is now up to 30, which is ridiculous in my opinion. This gives you actually more company chest space the higher this goes, which just sounds amazing already. I need this. There are new courses added to the Leap of Faith Gold Saucer attraction. This is actually set in the Sea of Clouds, and there's lots of jumping puzzle areas that you can fall off, and in fact, Yoshi P did at one point. There are a few traps along the way on this new course, so it could be quite some fun indeed. It looks really beautiful. Fellowships, apparently, just as a side note, can now be viewed in the companion app. So if you're on the fly, you can look at the whiskers and see if there's any new events that I'm running in-game as well. So that's a good one for sure. We still don't have any chat function on that, though, so maybe we'll get that in the future someday. Next up, let's talk about umbrellas. These are being added to the game in 5.2, and these are actually an extra button in the menu under Extra. This 2 new buttons, in fact. You get 2 different types from 5.2, and new ones are planned for the future. These are actually planned to be unlocked as rewards, sometimes from future content. They're kind of like mounts, so when you obtain an umbrella, it's added to this bar under Extra as an action. And essentially you click this and it will summon it. So the shadows of the umbrella protects you from the rain, so you actually don't get the wet particle effects on your clothing either, or your character. And you won't be able to mount whilst using this. It's purely just for RP basically, or walking around. It doesn't give you any movement speed increases or anything like that. And you can't use any actions or anything like that, much like if you were on a mount. They didn't mention emotes, but you know, I would imagine that some things should work, at least expressions at the very least. It uses mount data without actually using a mount, they explained, which is how they got it to work in terms of the coding. So there we go, umbrellas, quite exciting if you wanted this. And yeah, I can imagine some screenshots would be nice indeed. So the latter half of the live letter actually began with a look at the Eden tier, which is called Eden's Verse, when we have some sexy looking artwork shown again here. Apparently Gaia, the character designed by Tetsuya Nomura, will finally appear in the game. We've seen that on the 5.2 special site. They actually show footage of Ramu, which we'll get some screenshots for you here on screen, who is half Ixion, half Ramu, so basically a centaur. They additionally mention here that you can fall off the platform on this boss. There are lines in the floor, 6 panels on the side, sort of insinuating potential mechanics. They show footage of lots of balls and lots of things to pick up, and lots of AoE mechanics to avoid as well. It looks pretty cool, and I'm quite excited for the new tier. They cut away pretty quickly towards the end to avoid story spoilers, because obviously they talk during these sort of things, during emotes as well. So currently we have Ramuh Ixion is one fight, Garuda and Ifrit is another, and 2 others we don't really have much information on. They mention here they plan to make this tier more difficult than the last one. They actually lowered the difficulty last time due to the new jobs they added to the expansion and brand new skills to most classes, so it's actually confirmed to already be more difficult this tier, so prepare yourself indeed. Lastly, we see some new housing items that they tease, which is actually fish picture frames. I don't know if that's going to be from the fishing stuff or not, but they look really nice. They show the new raid gear, which, is absolutely beautiful. They show the paladin sort of tank here set. Incredible, I need that. The melee set for Lancer. They show samurai here, the range set, ninjas, the new healer set, which I love because of the feathers there on the arm, and the caster set, which is meh. I really love that healer set, but in general, those sets are really nice. It's a really nice tier set, in my own opinion. You might have different opinions. Let me know what you think below. They also show some concept of the new crafted gear, as well as an example in the game with a render. The example they show is range DPS, so this is the new crafted set, which I love. That helmet, that is absolutely amazing. I need that cap with the goggles for sure. I can't wait for that. And apparently the others are styled like this, so really nice stuff. So finally, we get to some announcements at the end. I don't usually cover these, but we're just going to cover one big one, is that FanFest finally got some dates. So firstly, they say that FanFest San Diego will be November the 6th and 7th, 2020. So San Diego, not Las Vegas this year. So you can be hyped for that if you live near San Diego. And they have a Comic-Con there, don't they? And San Diego Comic-Con and a few other events. Apparently a much bigger venue, so people shouldn't be left out on that one. In Japan, I believe it's in Nagoya, which is in December the 19th and 20th. And finally, we get the EU date, which is not in the EU because we're no longer in the EU, is London on February the 20th and the 21st, 2021. And This, no matter what you think about the rest of this live letter, this was the moment where I got out of my chair and I screamed yes, because no longer will I have to deal with flights, and I cannot wait for this. I'm going to get as many of my free company and friends to go to this, and I advise, if you live in Europe or if you're in the UK, make sure you get a ticket and go to this, because it's going to be exceptional. Hopefully we'll have a 777 Whiskers meetup. That would be lovely to meet some of you guys again. But yeah, on my home turf, I can guarantee you that I'm going to this. I'm losing breath out of excitement. But yes, that was the live letter part 57 summary for 5.2 and beyond. Now, obviously, this is above 20 minutes. It's not much of a summary, but come on, can anybody make it smaller than this without making sense? I doubt it. Thank you kindly for watching. A link in the description will take you to that flashy new trailer for 5.2. Hyped for London 2021, and I'll see you all next time.